close down some polling stations ahead of the 2024 general elections, which is only 24 days away. We'll also be finding out what next after Supreme Court in a majority decision ruled that Speaker Alban Gbagben's declaration of 4 parliamentary seats as vacant is unconstitutional. Also coming up this afternoon, NDC honors memory of their late founder, former President Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, who passed on some 4 years ago. My name is Hammoah Agyemang. Details of these and more shortly. Many thanks for joining us. The bulletin begins right here, right now. The Electoral Commission says it has closed some polling stations across the country some 24 days to the December polls. The Commission, which has released the official details for the country's voters register, says it has been forced to close down some polling stations due to a lack of numbers and, in some cases, a demand by residents. In all, more than 18 million people are currently on the country's electoral roll. Let me take you through the numbers. So, valid voters, according to the EC, are 18,774,159. You must be asking yourself if you are part of these numbers. Voters with biometric data, 18,640,811. Special voters, 131,478. And voters without biometric data, 1,870. So the closed polling stations are because of these reasons. A number of the polling stations were administratively closed. The polling stations did not meet the minimum voter threshold required for operation. Some local communities also requested the Commission to close the polling stations for legitimate reasons, and maybe voters from these closed stations were transferred to other polling stations. We'll be speaking to Dr. Rashid Tanko, Deputy Director of Elections and IT of the opposition NDC. But my colleague, Noble Crosby Annan, is here. He will be joining us shortly for a conversation. Meanwhile, the Electoral Commission has also disqualified Philip Apiekubi, the Ghana Freedom Party's replacement flag bearer, after uncovering errors and illegalities on his nominating form. The EC granted the GFP the opportunity to field a candidate following the demise of its presidential candidate, Madam Ekwia Donko. However, the EC says the nomination papers found by the replacement candidate is riddled with discrepancies and irregularities which it could not overlook, leading to the decision to bar the candidate from contesting in the upcoming election. She spoke at a news conference. We can listen to her and then speak to my colleague, Noble Crosby Annan, who has been staying through that EC meeting shortly.
You may be aware, the Commission received notice of the home call of Madam Ekwia Donko on the 29th of October 2024. Per Article 54 of the 1992 Constitution, and Regulation 13.4 of CI 127, the Commission wrote to the Ghana Freedom Party and provided them a period of 10 days within which to file a new candidate. Article 50 of the 4 of the 1992 Constitution reads, where at the close of nominations, but before the election, one of the candidates dies, a further period of 10 days shall be allowed for nomination. In that respect, the Commission wrote to the Ghana Freedom Party and asked them to present a new candidate within 10 days. In fulfillment of that request, the Ghana Freedom Party presented Mr. Apiekubi, who was before then the vice presidential candidate to Madam Ekwia Donko. The party presented him as the presidential candidate of the Ghana Freedom Party. He and the party went on to submit their nomination forms on the 5th of November, and our technical teams went to work immediately reviewing the nomination forms. At the end of the process, they detected a number of errors and some illegalities with the form. The candidate's attention was drawn to these errors, and the party was provided an opportunity to correct them. They did that. In the view of the Commission, it was not in our bosom to provide the political party the opportunity to correct some of the illegalities that we found on the form. In that respect, the party did not draw their attention to it because the commission does not feel that it is in its bosom to allow any political party to correct illegalities with the form. The commission, therefore, as at yesterday, wrote to the party and to the candidate disqualifying him from contesting the 2024 presidential election.
EC Chair Jean Mensah there. We have already mentioned to you that the NDC is raising some reactions to the decision by the Electoral Commission to close down some polling stations. Let us connect with Dr. Rashid Tanko. He is Deputy Director of Elections and IT of the opposition NDC. Doc, thank you for making time to talk to us this afternoon. Why has the closure of these polling stations become an issue for the NDC?
Very well. Let me say good afternoon to your cherished listeners. The question is simple. Until today, we didn't know that they have closed down certain polling stations because this came to us as a surprise. All along our dealings with them, they've never mentioned the closure of certain polling stations. What they did mention to us was that they were rather creating additional voting centers. Okay, that means that if the figure of 750 was more than that, after the limited registration exercise, then they will create additional voting centers. That increased the number from the 38,622 to about 40,000 plus. But today, when they gave us the statistics, they made a revelation of some polling stations having been closed due to one or two reasons. And because of that, about 884 of such voters have been put into absentee voters list. I mean, this is a revelation they must come clean. And we demanded the records or the place, the polling stations that they have closed. We need records of that.
Doc, the EC makes the case that the voters from these closed stations have been transferred to other polling stations. That is probably why the numbers have increased in other polling stations. You don't agree with that?
Well, which are the polling stations? They should let us know. You and I, they say they've closed one. Do you know the polling station they have closed? I think this is the first time we are hearing it from them. Ask them whether they've ever mentioned this to us in all our dealings with them. It's today they've mentioned it. And that's why I asked them about it. That they should make those polling stations available. We want to know which of the polling stations you have closed and migrated them to a different polling station. Let us know.
What is the way forward for the NDC on this, Doc?
Well, we'll put them through. We've asked that. They must let us know. I mean, because the data we have, they've indicated the total polling stations, about 40,975 of them. Okay. And now you are saying that you have closed certain polling stations. So we need to know those polling stations.
All right, Doc, thank you for talking to us. Dr. Rashid Tanko is Deputy Director of Elections and IT of the opposition NDC. My colleague, Noble Crosby Annan, has been sitting through that presser by the Electoral Commission. Crosby, so update us on the disqualification of Roman father, also called Philip Appiah-Kubi, the Ghana Freedom Party's replacement for their flag bearer. What happened with him?
This was one of the shortest IPAC meetings I've witnessed. So the Electoral Commission, they called an emergency meeting. In fact, for the parties who were represented there, a lot of them did not know why they were there. But eventually, when the EC chair came and made the announcement that, following the demise of Madam Agyemang, the Electoral Commission was notified, and the commission, as per laws, they made the GFP nominate somebody to replace Madam Agyemang. And then, after the nomination, the technical and IT teams of the commission, they got to work immediately, vetting the forms submitted by Appiah-Kubi, who was a vice presidential candidate for Madam Agyemang. So after vetting, the commission noted that there were errors and illegalities. That's according to Jean Mensah. And the errors mainly had to do with the endorsement differences. You know that a lot of the candidates who have been disqualified in the 2024 presidential elections, a lot of them have had to deal with issues of endorsement challenges. You don't need to get wrong people to endorse your forms, and district timelines and all of that. So that is essentially why Appiah-Kubi was disqualified. And before that, there was a minute silence held in honor of Madam Agyemang. And then Jean Mensah made it known that there are some challenges with the law. It does not make mention explicitly what happens when a candidate dies. Usually there are withdrawals of candidates, and that is even for parliamentary elections. I'm talking about regulation CI 127 regulation 10.5. So the EC had to stretch the law, if you like, to deal with these issues.
One.
Exactly.
So what happens to the votes that will come in for the GFP party, and then what happens to the balloting, the numbers on the ballot paper?
Well, the NDC and other political parties, they were concerned that the ballot positions may change. But Mensa says the commission will maintain the ballot positions. It will not affect anything. What will happen is that because a lot of the ballot papers had been printed already, indeed, about a month or 3 weeks ago when I went on a tour with the Electoral Commission to the printing presses, I was told that a lot of them had even finished printing their ballot papers. So when the commission told them to pause printing, there was nothing much they could do because they had already finished. So the commission going forward will maintain the ballot positioning, the names, the numbers.
That means the Kwadonko's picture and symbol will still be on the ballot paper.
Yes, they will not have time to replace it, or they do not want to replace it. So for votes that the Kwadonko will get, it will be annulled. Indeed, that question was asked by Jerry of the LPG. The commission said the votes of Madam Kwadonko will be annulled, and after the elections, maybe the commission will sit and then think about what to do in case something like this happens. Because there are no provisions for this in the law.
All right, Crosby, thank you for bringing us up to speed on that Electoral Commission meeting. My colleague Noble Crosby and updating us on that. Let us go to the Supreme Court. I know it's an issue we have all been following in the last few weeks. This morning, the Supreme Court has, in a majority decision, ruled against Speaker of Parliament Agyemang Baba's decision to declare 4 parliamentary seats vacant, upholding an application filed by Majority Leader Alexander Agyemang. The 7-member panel, led by Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono, delivered a 5-2 majority decision in favor of Agyemang. Chief Justice Tokono noted that a detailed explanation of the ruling will be provided on Wednesday. The Yefutu MP went to the Apex Court over Speaker Agyemang's interpretation of Article 97(1)(g) of the 1992 Constitution, which he cited as the basis for declaring the Amenfi Central, Formina, Suhum and Agona West seat vacant. But the Majority Leader argued that the Speaker had overstepped his authority. The Supreme Court had earlier stayed the implementation of the Speaker's orders pending determination of a substantive case. The dispute also led to a stalemate in Parliament, with both sides claiming to constitute the majority caucus. Our court correspondent, Lord Edwasa, witnessed the proceedings and will be joining us shortly. But first, let's hear the Chief Justice as she announced the decision of the court.
By court, in a majority decision of 5-2, Lovelace Johnson JSC and Amadou Tanko JSC dissenting on the issue of jurisdiction, the plaintiff's action succeeds. The full reasons and orders of the court shall be filed with the registrar by close of day tomorrow, 13th November 2024. This is the judgment of the court.
So you had the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono bringing us that brief announcement or that brief decision. It takes me back to the election petition we had, where the judgment was also as brief as possible. Let us listen to the reaction of Agyemang and his lawyers.
It's a moment for all of us to rally around the choice we made in 1992, democracy. Democracy requires decency, and that is the path the MPP majority caucus took to ensure that we do right to the law. Nothing more except to say that we expect our colleagues on the other side, including Mr. Speaker, to respect the outcome of this case so that we move on as a nation. All we have is the peace of the country. All we have is our democracy. And in West Africa and in Africa as a whole, Ghana shines in the eyes of the people in terms of democracy. So this is another feat we have achieved, and we must celebrate it. It's not a matter of MPP against NDC. It's a matter of constitutional, interpretation, and the court has given its verdict. We should all respect it and move on. Thank you very much. I think on the...
Do you expect the Speaker to recall Parliament on its own volition, given this emphatic...
Let the lawyers deal with the issues of law. I think that all we want is peace in the country, and we chose peace. And today, we've achieved peace. That is all we say.
Well, you heard Hammoah Agyemang there. My colleague, Lord Idwansari, is joining us in studio. Lord, so we anticipated a long delivery of the judgment, looking at how the case has run over the weeks, but it was between 5 and 6 minutes. Tell us more about this.
So, Grace, it was actually less, give or take, about 1 minute 42 seconds. And basically, we're all seated, and then the Chief Justice, she presided over the 7-member justices panel. She came to read the judgment, saying that the suit by the majority leader, Alexander Hammoah, has been upheld. So essentially, because Hammoah was, as we know, challenging the Speaker's decision to declare the seats vacant. Now, in the aftermath, we could see that there was a lot of excitement from the camp of the NPP. We saw Katie Hammond's demeanor, as well as Hammoah Agyemang. We heard him speak. But the AG also responded to the ruling. He said that, he expects that, he said this is the right decision because it meant that the Constitution had been adhered to, and expects that moving forward, this actually goes ahead, because for future
Parliament and decisions,
this should take place. They should observe it, because if you realize in the last, which was yesterday, he had actually argued that the previous
decision by
the Speaker of Parliament, Michael Quay, was unconstitutional, and so he expects that it was good that this actually came up, so there's clarity. So moving on, this should be adhered to. He actually spoke to the media after.
Let's listen to the AG.
Well, I think the court has spoken in very clear and emphatic terms, and of course, it must be the only thing anybody has to do is to respect the Constitution. That's the mark of a civilized democratic order. It leaves no room for any argument whatsoever, and the majority decision, very big majority, clear majority, 5-2. It's not as if it was a narrow majority, 3-4 or 4-3, that anyone can say, well, there's some room for kind of review or anything at all. But the point I'm making is that whenever the court speaks, it's such a clear and emphatic order. Even if it's a very narrow majority, that's the decision of the court, and that decision must be respected. And I'm saying that it results in a degeneration of our society and a destruction of our democratic order for anybody at all to refuse to comply with orders of the Supreme Court. And I think that's non-negotiable. It's something that we must all respect. I have heard some statements by certain political actors to the effect that the case ought to be withdrawn and that there ought to be negotiation and all that.
So the Attorney General there, Lord, we know it was a 5-2 decision from the Supreme Court. Update us on the lawyers that were for or those that were dissenting.
Right, so Justices Amadou Tanko and then Lovelace Johnson, they dissented. So they are the two in this majority ruling. The ones who were in the majority who said yes were Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu, Mariama Owusu, Samuel Esiedu, Ernest Jewu, and then Justice Yao Asare Darko.
So going forward, what does this mean? Do we see the Speaker of Parliament reconvening the House and telling them who should sit? Or we know some MPs like Katie Hammond have been speaking. What does it mean?
Well, all things considered, we'll listen to Katie Hammond in a bit, because he has been agitated that the Speaker of Parliament hasn't or did not adhere to the decision of the Supreme Court previously, and he came out to also give his own assertions and all that in the media. We can listen to Katie Hammond because he actually stated that he expects that this time around the Speaker should adhere to the ruling.
But the Speaker of Parliament is supposed to be the custodian, of the Constitution. Constitution. This man decides that he will not respect the Constitution. Not only that, he would not respect the apex court of the land. It's outlandish. I haven't seen anything like that in my life. And I heard this argument. He respects the supremacy of the Constitution, but he doesn't respect the supremacy of the Supreme Court. What does it mean? This is what some Somebody said, what do I have against Babi? My very good friend. Everybody accepts. I mean, he's a class prefect. You all know that. But the point is that I do not agree that a person of his caliber would not respect the ruling of the Supreme Court. Now it has been very crystally put by the Supreme Court. The motion filed by our majority leader of the House has succeeded. The Speaker Babing has absolutely no choice now to comply. Tell Atu and his followers to move back to where they originated onto our seat. We expect that to be done without fail.
So you had Katie Hammond there. Lord, this means the Speaker is supposed to recall the House anytime, so maybe next week, because they sit on Tuesdays, and so maybe
waiting to see if the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, is going to recall Parliament, because we do know that the number of businesses that have been left unattended to because of this, what has been indeed described as a constitutional crisis.
All right, Lord, thank you for talking to us. Lord Edwasari, my colleague, updating us on that Supreme Court hearing. Let's go to Takoradi, because commuters on the Takoradi-Agunan-Kwanta Road in the Western region will soon heave a sigh of relief as rehabilitation works on the stretch is about 35% complete. It will be recalled the poor state of the stretch, which is part of the N1, resulted in a blockade at Ewusijo in 2023, disrupting international traffic and leaving many stranded for days. Irama Smith joined some engineers from the Ghana Highway Authority and the contractor to assess progress of work, and now joins us live with more. Irama, talk to us about the economic importance of this road and the progress of work.
Right, so this is part of the N1, which starts from Benin, passes through Accra, Cape Coast, through Takoradi to La Côte d'Ivoire. So you can imagine the economic importance. Here within the Western region, this is a very crucial route because natural resource from the forest areas, I'm talking about from the upper areas, the Western North, Takwa mines and all those areas pass through here before they get to the Takoradi Harbour. That's if they are unable to use the rail line. So this is a very, very crucial route here. Now, you would recall that last year, around October, there was a blockade on the Ewusijo part of the road because of the poor nature of the road. It was given on contract to Just More Construction. They have 3 years to complete the construction, and they are 35% complete. This morning, the Takoradi area manager for the Ghana Highway Authority, as well as the regional engineer, took some media persons on a tour of the facility, and he tells us that because of the use of this particular stretch, they have had to ensure that they design a road that is specifically suitable because of the weight of goods that usually pass on it.
We have a dual section. The dual section is from the Pramdo to Agunan-Kwanta. That section, we are adding an additional lane to it, including the two bridges that we are working on Pramdo and the Ewusijo. Contractor is supposed to work on that is construct a new bridge for the dual section. When we finish, supposed to demolish the existing steel bridge and then replace it with a new concrete again.
Right, Era, so who is funding the project? Are funds available to ensure it is not abandoned midway?
Right, we are aware, we all know about the financial implications of such projects. It's very common to see contractors abandoning projects because of lack of funding from government. We have been speaking to the CEO of Just More Construction, and that is Dr. Justice Amo, and he assures us that everything has been put in place to ensure that this project is able to meet its deadlines. As in government being the main financier, their bankers, and also they themselves as the contractors. So he assures that this will definitely be completed without the challenge of funding.
Regards to funding, we have arrangement with the government on the contract side. The details, of course, I cannot put it in public domain. And then also internally, we have arrangement with our bankers. We also need the road users and the community. We need a maximum cooperation from them because together we build. So the compliance. You're talking about safety compliance. At times, you have to close a road to be able to achieve a target or to be able to work there for a week, 2 weeks, and then the next day you come impatiently. Somebody has removed all the barricades and they are using it. So it's also affecting progress. So we need their cooperation.
Barama Smith with that report there. Now to something rather summer. This afternoon, the National Democratic Congress and family of former President Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings have laid wreath in honor of his demise some 4 years ago. Tuesday, November 12, 2024, marked exactly 4 years when the former president passed on at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital after a short, undisclosed ailment. His demise occurred less than a month after he buried his mother, the late Victoria Agbetui. Party members, supporters and family members earlier converged at the headquarters of the National Democratic Congress to lay wreath to commemorate his demise. My colleague Stanley Bleu joins us on this. Stanley, bring us up to speed on what happened earlier today.
I'll read a quote by him, and I think that this is a quote that
Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings journeyed on to the ancestral land. And for the party and the family, they feel that this is a statesman who had actually contributed greatly to the country, to shaping the Fourth Republic. And so they have to honor his demise. And so today, a wreath laying ceremony was held in his honor, where 3 wreaths were laid, one for the family, one for the party, and then one for the cadres that actually supported the late president in bringing up the June 4th revolution. And so that was what happened. Today, a lot of the party bigwigs were able to make it to the headquarters of the NDC. But also, the flag bearer of the NDC wasn't present because he is on a campaign trip to the other regions. So he wasn't there, and then the vice chair wasn't there. But we had people like the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. We also had Fritz Bafo, the former health minister during the John Mahama's administration, that is Alex Segbefia. They were all there to grace the occasion this morning. Yes. And for the speaker, that is Zanata Rawlings, who happens to be the daughter of the late president. For him, his father is a very principled man. So if the NDC is able to stage a successful comeback to power next year, they shouldn't do business as usual.
All right, let's listen to Zanata. Yeah.
I'll read a quote by him, and I think that this is a quote that should guide us as we work towards the 7th of December this year and beyond, because the challenge is not so much winning an election, but doing the right thing when you are in government. And the level of responsibility that's placed upon us morally as a party is much, much higher because of our origins. When he was chairman of the PNDC, he said, and this is only a section of a speech, the errors of the past must be corrected in order to re-establish the confidence of our people in a secure future.
Dr. Zanata Rawlings, daughter of the late former President Jerry John Rawlings, bringing the bulletin here on 3FM 92.7 to a close. My name is Hammoah Agyemang. Thank you for joining us. Log on to 3news.com and get some more stories. Michael Ogbedu is standing by to bring us the latest in the world of business. Good afternoon.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM.
3FM 92.7.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7 with me, Michael Obodu. Coming up, financial economist Dr. Boakye Yadom optimistic Ghana's credit scoring system will speed up credit processing and reduce cost of borrowing.
Credit score is an attempt to formalize and also to make use of the Ghana card, be able to bring an objective interest rate on amount of loan or the interest rate on loans that people usually assess.
Plus, Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana urges freight forwarders to come to negotiation table to enable Shippers Authority finalize legislative instruments seeking to regulate shipping activities.
You are doing demonstration. You are doing picketing. You want the Ghana Shippers Authority to implement the law to the latter, isn't it? And you don't want to come to the round table. You don't want to be part of the ad hoc committee that will support the Shippers Authority to draft the LI.
Details of these and more coming up shortly. Please stay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Straight into our top story. And financial economist and senior lecturer at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA, Dr. Eric Boakye Yadom believes Ghana's newly launched credit score system will reduce borrowing costs for businesses and individuals with good credit history. The system, My Credit Score, was launched by Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and is backed by the Central Bank. It provides a personalized credit reference and scoring system, enabling Ghanaians to demonstrate their creditworthiness transparently and access credit more easily.
Financial institutions usually charge a generalized rate, which is not specific to individual needs, because we don't have the individual information. But this credit score system will help in determining my credit risk or somebody who is applying a loan, the person's default risk. Therefore, we can all be working at the same place. We can all be going for the same amount of loan, but our risk exposure differs. So the interest that I will pay will be different from the interest that the other person will pay. Credit score is an attempt to formalize and also to make use of the Ghana card that so much investment has gone into it. So yes, it is a welcoming news, and it will be able to improve financial inclusion, and it will be able to speed up the processes of assessing for funding, and also be able to bring an objective interest rate on amount of loan or the interest rate on loans that people usually assess.
Dr. Yadom also stressed that the credit score system will also speed up credit processing by financial institutions and increase accessibility.
Basically, for a financial institution to assess credit, there are 5 things that they look for. The person's character. Character in terms of the credit history, the person's ability to repay loans, the capital, which has to do with the person's net asset. Then we'll look at the person's capacity, that is ability to repay, or the affordability of the person. We'll look for collateral. The speed in assessing these informations will inform the speed in advancing the credit. And if it takes substantial time to gather this information, it will even affect the duration of processing the credit. So it is important that having a credit score system, that these informations are readily available, financial institutions can easily access it, which can speed up the loan processes for businesses and individuals.
Dr. Eric Boakye Yadom is an economist and a senior lecturer at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA. Away from that, Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana, Samson Asaki Awingobit, is calling on freight forwarders to rejoin negotiations with the Ghana Shippers Authority to finalize the drafting of the legislative instruments LI supporting the Shippers Act. This comes after freight forwarders recently staged demonstrations and picketed shipping lines in Accra, citing unfair practices and illegitimate charges. In an interview with 3 Business, Awingobit emphasized that until the LIs pass, the Ghana Shippers Authority lacks the authority to regulate shipping lines' activities.
I'm calling on them that they should put the differences about what the issue that they are raising in relation to the Shippers Authority to address for them now. They should put that aside and then help the Shippers Authority to draft the LI that will regulate the shipping lines. Then we can go back to the roundtable with the shippers authority, because the shippers authority stakeholders are we. Imported and export association, GUTA, free forwarders. And so if you free forwarders, something will affect free forwarders directly, I think they are stakeholders. You can go and sit with the shippers authority to discuss it. But however, for now, I think with the importance attached to this, their picketing and the demonstration that they did last year, kudos to them. They have done a great job. But hey, demonstration alone, picketing alone cannot solve the matter. We must support the shippers authority to come out with the LI quickly to address this issue.
So that was Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana, Samson Asaki Awingobit, speaking there. Now, the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, has fallen short of its statutory obligation to establish a reserve fund. This was contained in the 2024 semi-annual report published by the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC. The 15-year deadline for GNPC to set up the fund is rapidly approaching, with only 2 years remaining until 2026. The reserve fund is crucial for GNPC's financial independence, enabling it to stand on its feet without relying on government support. The delay in establishing the reserve fund raises concerns about GNPC's long-term sustainability and its ability to contribute meaningfully to the nation's economic development. Chair of PIAC is Constantine Kujoji.
GNPC has not established the reserve fund as required by Section 18 of the PNDC Law 64 to provide expenditures for long-term expenditures and long-term plan of GNPC, because by the PRMA, by 2026, petroleum funds will not be distributed to GNPC. They have to find a way of getting their own money, and the essence was to create this reserve as a form of savings, so that if they are weaned off the PRMA in terms of petroleum funds, they can stand on their feet. This reserve has still not been created. Again, there is the need for GNPC to establish the reserve fund under the PNDC Law 64. There is a need to create the reserve to build up funds for their future operations. Of course, unless it is extended, there is the need for that. And for now, we do not know whether it will be extended or the law will be amended to that effect.
So that was the chairman of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, Constantine Kujoji, bringing an end to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website at 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is Urban Blend with Ras Kobe. Please stay tuned.